I'd like to call this meeting of the Ellsworth Planning Board to order. Wednesday, December 7th, 2016. With us this evening, please introduce ourselves.
Jim Barkhouse.
Barbara Hagenbart.
John Fink.
Daryl Wilson.
Roger Lassard.
The first item of business is adoption of the minutes from the November 2nd meeting. Is there a motion regarding the minutes?
I so move.
Any additions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor of adopting the minutes?
Aye.
Thank you. Now let's,
Am I able to operate today?
yeah, we have with us here 5 members.
Is it called?
That means everyone is voting. Next item of business is final plan for a major use site development and major subdivision entitled Union River Center for Innovation for the City of Ellsworth. The proposal is to subdivide the existing building located on a .47 acre lot on Water Street, tax map 130 lot 9, into 7 professional office units in the shoreland zone general development. Is someone representing the applicant, please?
Andrew McCullough, representing the City of Ellsworth. Last month at the planning board meeting, we discussed, or it was asked by either the board or Michelle, that we dimension the parking spaces and the parking lot to demonstrate that it met the ordinance. And so I believe there are dimensions on the plan that shows that it does. And then in the TRT meeting, it was asked, I guess you would say, that the planters be removed that were shown actually in the right-of-way out in front of the building. And so I did not revise all of your plan sheets that you have in your hands, but the Mylars have been revised so that those planters are not shown. Other than that, if I recall correctly, you told me it was a very boring application.
Yes, I'm still recovering.
We had a chance to review the Mylars and the planters were taken off.
Have you discussed this with the gardening club in Ellsworth?
No,
What was the reasoning of removing the?
They were in the right of way.
they're not on city land, they're on the state right of way.
So there's no traffic control measure to separate the handicap parking from the road then? What was that the intent originally?
That was the original intent, yes, and our parking layout is to do that without the planters, but because the planters there isn't room to have them without them being in the right of way.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So our layout stands with the intent to have our handicap parking space and to not encourage vehicles to utilize that. But yes, it doesn't allow for, the space does not allow for them to be there.
The other questions that I had, if I could, because the project is in the shoreland zone, is the city's position that we're just gonna consider it a non-conforming use and accept it the way that it is, because no change of use is planned? Because, for example, the side lot setback, the minimum frontage, I'm assuming the 100-year flood level, all these things are non-conforming? Is that true?
Well, they're existing, they were existing prior to this. We
Grandfather.
haven't increased the non-conformity in any way.
Right.
Okay.
In regard to any of those things, we have not increased that nonconformity.
And the city did have Andrew plot the 100-year flood line, so we know where that is, so.
Is the building inside that boundary?
It's just a portion of the foundation. There's a
Okay.
back room I believe that's still where these maps stand, or the new maps, it's close, isn't it?
It's close,
To the
Daryl,
edges.
whether it is, I feel comfortable arguing that it is outside the limit of the flood zone, based on the map. It's very close, that boundary is very close,
Okay,
yes.
all right. So then I guess our approval we would explicitly state that we accept it with its existing nonconformities kind of thing? Or do we have to even touch on it?
It's conforming on setback from the water, because that's in general development.
Right.
That's not an issue. The existing footprint, that building's been there quite a while. I don't see any issues.
Okay,
Like I said,
No, I
it's-
don't.
we haven't increased any of the non-conformities at all. We have no plans to.
In essence, nothing is going further toward the water or anything.
Correct.
No, or, yeah, further, you
so
know,
there's just no increase, that's really.
Yeah.
right, that's the key.
So is it just grandfathered in? Has it been grandfathered?
Well, there is
Or-
really no grandfather. It was existing prior to the development.
Right.
If it was a non-conforming use, then you could now expand that use.
Right.
The same as if it was a non-conforming structure. But as far as the shoreline setback goes, we meet that.
Right.
We would have
Yep.
an issue with sideline setbacks because one side is on the property line. But other than that, I see no issues with it.
Okay.
As far, yes, and I, that sideline setback is the only non-conforming setback.
So-
But it is an existing, and I believe that the building was, I think it was 67 or something like that. I mean, it was long before, frankly, the current ordinances that we have.
So it's a conforming use in all zones,
Yes,
and it's a conforming structure set by wide, or dimensional requirements for all dimensional requirements with the exception of one, the back, the side setback. Is that correct?
except for the side setback, yes. I mean, as far as lot coverage.
In the shoreline zone.
As far as lot coverage in that zone and, you know, yes, it conforms to everything,
But it's
yeah.
and there's no increase in nonconformity.
Correct.
Therefore, it stands.
The last question that I had was in the shoreline zone again, 410.4, commercial and industrial uses. It says that certain uses aren't allowed, and clearly when you read through the list, that none of these are gonna fit. Is that part of the permit, that when you do this subdivision, that these uses like photographic processing and printing aren't gonna be allowed in that space? Because it's in the shoreline zone? And does that need to be noted somewhere?
Well, we have a photographic print shop in the shoreline zone now, it's existing. I would stay on the thought that you're not increasing a nonconformity with the building or a use,
Okay,
you know? If you have a nonconforming use and you want to expand it, then they'd have to come back before the planning board for approval for that.
And what we've proposed and how this is being used is, you know, as we kind of discussed last month, as a similar use, if you will, to what was there. So, you know, I think that there would probably need to be a hard look if you came in and proposed some of those things that are on that list. That are,
so I was
What's the
just
list you're
curious,
looking at?
page 29 of the Article 4 shoreline zoning, paragraph 410.4, commercial and industrial uses.
Okay, can I bring you back to the table of land uses under page 22, 19.3?
Yeah.
So that section you're reading goes with that section. That section says that allow, except for commercial uses otherwise listed in this table, such as but not limited to, blah, blah, blah. Okay,
Yeah,
is it-
so it's the 410.4 that I'm referring to.
Correct, but allow commercial uses limited to the ones allowed in the land use zoning districts for adjacent upland, with the exception of the uses as listed. So therefore, it is allowed because it's not one of the exception, right?
In 410, this is the scenario that played out in my head. We grant this subdivision, and there's 7 spaces. One of the 7, and so they go off on their merry way. One of the 7 people comes in and says, hey, I want to do photographic processing in one of those 7 units. It's
Okay.
not an allowed use. Do they get a permit for you before they go in and use that? Or is it just, oh, there's 7 places, do what you want?
Yeah, so they should, theoretically.
Right.
So what
We
you-
would bring them back to the planning board.
Oh, okay, so any of those uses,
Each use, other than an office space, will be reviewed as to whether it's an allowable use or not.
okay, cool.
So what you could
That's really-
do to make sure that there's a follow-through in your motion, you could refer to these as listed in 410, and say that, that those uses are not one of the uses that can locate in this
Okay.
building.
And as long as
Does
that's
that make
clear to a
sense?
tenant before they
Correct.
try,
Yeah,
before they come wandering in.
and you could, we can definitely have in the letter of, the action letter, this listed.
Okay,
Do you want to note on the plan? Okay. We can list it in the action letter.
okay.
Further questions from the board? This is a public hearing. Any member of the public may comment on this matter. I ask that before you speak, you be recognized by the chair, go up to the lectern and state your name for the record. Does anyone wish to speak? Okay, I'll close the public hearing. What would the board like to do?
Mr. Chairman, with regard to agenda item number 2, the final plan for a major use site development plan and major subdivision titled the Union River Center renovation for the city of Ellsworth, the proposal to subdivide the existing building located on this 0.47 acre lot on Water Street into 7 professional office units in the shoreline zone. The planning board finds that this meets the 607 standards governing site development. And some aspects of due to the circumstances that already exist, we make a determination that there is no increase in nonconformity. The only one we have identified specifically as a side setback, and that we convey through a action letter that there are restrictive uses in shoreline zones per section 410, and that the planning board approves this project.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor, please indicate.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
It got a little exciting today,
Oh, jeez.
you know, so I thank you for that. The next item of business is a preliminary plan for a major use development plan entitled Building 250 Ellsworth Expansion Project for the Jackson Laboratory. The proposal is to create a 174,300 square foot laboratory and central utility plant on a 17.71 acre property located at 21 Kingsland Crossing, formerly the Lowe's Building. Tax map 16, lot 2 in the commercial zone. And someone is representing the Jackson Laboratory.
How are you? I'm Sarah Nicholson from Woodard and Curran. and Norm Birdsell with the Jackson Laboratory.
John Fitzpatrick is winging his way to foreign lands right now, so we'll do our best to fill in without him.
You don't want to postpone this, I suppose?
No, we do
No.
not. I think we're in good shape.
I just wanted you to have the opportunity.
Thank you.
So, why don't you summarize where we are and,
So we're here with the preliminary application for your completeness review. We came with sketch plan last time. We've been through TRT and provided a few amended documents, which is what is in your package. We're still owe the letters from the water and sewer departments, and as well, we're doing a harder look at the traffic issues. So those are submittals that you do not in fact have yet. But I believe everything else is there.
questions from the planning board?
It was water and sewer, or just water?
Water and sewer, yeah.
And you're
They've been
looking-
involved all
Yeah.
along, so I don't think there's,
Sarah
Right.
requested the letter, she just hasn't received
Right.
the answers yet from Larry or Mike Harris.
Okay.
And as for the traffic study, if I may, there was some information submitted. It was not, we just thought that we needed more information as the types of trip that Lowe's was generating are not necessarily the same type of trips that, they're not gonna be diverted trip. They're gonna be primarily primary trips that are gonna be there. People with a goal of getting there and going to work. They're not just going shopping on a Saturday morning and whoops, I'll go to Lowe's. You just don't go buy a mouse, on a whim. So,
That's true.
No.
from that point of view, even though it's not gonna be triggering a traffic movement permit in the sense of the DOT for trips, because those trips were already assigned to that location, there's definitely a change in pattern, and we just wanna make sure that the intersections are able to handle they have the capacity and the timing to handle what's gonna be sent to them at the time it's going to be sent to them, and how it's going to jive with the traffic on the corridors that are in the surrounding area. I believe you hired Goral Palmer to do this?
Main traffic resources.
Okay, someone
Yes.
from Goral Palmer called me, so, or maybe Diane Moravito.
Diane Moravito.
Sorry, I thought she was sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Main traffic resources.
So they hired people that specialize in traffic engineering and studies, so.
How are you gonna monitor the odor and the noise? That's one of the questions brought up with TRT.
So there is some information in here. Both those issues are being looked at. They're being incorporated into the design. There's specific standards that have to be met for noise, and I didn't include that analysis in here. It'll be provided to the DEP because it's required for those standards. But essentially, the noise-making equipment is inside and/or muffled, and they've done good hard looking at all those things. They actually have a pretty important issues internally. So because of the mice are sensitive. So that's all being looked at pretty hard.
Okay.
And odors, there are also odor controls being put in place for the significant odor sources that are part of the facility. So for example, one that we've talked about is the grain, cooking the grain, which has been a source. And so there's a odor control that will be put in place before that discharge goes into the sewer. So it'll be.
Yeah, so we put that note in there, and I think what we did is that we've had numerous meetings with them over time on a whole bunch of conversation. That was a note that was brought to their attention earlier on, and at the last TRT, I forgot to bring it back to your attention, but it did make it on the TRT, and I would like to, if it's okay with the board, to definitely see more information on both noise and odors.
Then what's in the revised text?
In here?
Yeah.
Okay, I missed it.
No, that's okay. I mean, do you want, like, as in do you want the noise analysis that we're doing for the DEP?
That's gonna be up to them.
It was a pretty descriptive.
Yeah, I missed the revised page, I'm sorry about that, so.
Daryl, descriptive meaning,
Let me just see if I can find
I thought I
the
read through it.
reference to it.
it isn't very in-depth. I'm not trying to claim that it is. I'm just,
What page is it on?
I believe it's in section 9.
It's all in section 9.
All the good stuff's in section 9.
Everything is in section.
Well, he's a scientist.
It's in the addendum you provided, correct, Sarah?
It says there will be no uncontrolled noxious odors, dust, fumes, vapors, gases, glare, explosive materials associated with the proposed project. While these are a source of odor, controls are being engineered. Noise sources from machinery will be controlled. The project will be reviewed by DEP under the Site Location of Development Program. And that application will demonstrate compliance with the applicable state regs for noise and odor. So I just assumed that if they were passing state regs for noise and odor, that they would meet our criteria.
What page are you on, Daryl?
17 of section 9 at the top.
So it's on the addendum.
And there was another mention about DEP earlier.
So DEP is gonna monitor it anyways, right?
They'll review the applications and
Right.
we'll provide the more detailed analysis to
Okay.
them and more detailed information. And
Right.
I mean, we're in the process of putting that application together. If it's information that you want, I can give it to you as well. But what Daryl says is exactly right. I mean,
Right.
that was the intent, was to make the point that we have to meet those standards, and we're
Yeah,
showing DEP that we will. But I'm not. It's totally up to you.
So, if I what I would have brought up, and I missed it, I think, I should have done a better job, I apologize, is I think, from my point of view, I need more information. I think I've got some concern that, based on, the proximity of the houses, based on the, what I've experienced in the park, and I'm sure you're gonna have more, up-to-date systems to treat than maybe what's in Bar Harbor. I'd like to have assurances and demonstration or an understanding of what we are looking at in both noise and odors. It's up to the board, obviously, to make that decision.
Let me say, it would not hurt if you just included that in the next package.
I mean, you don't
Since you'll have it.
there aren't they're not specific standards, right?
No, there isn't.
No.
They're
Correct.
general.
It's very general,
Okay.
correct. There's some of this on section 8, I believe,
Okay,
and some both of them extremely general, correct.
that's fine. We'll just give you what we're giving to the state, and you'll see what it is.
Further questions?
I don't even know.
No further question from the board?
None. None from me.
This is a public hearing. Does anyone wish to speak?
No.
Thank you. My name is Todd Little Siebold. I'm a resident of the Bayside Road, and I live approximately a mile and a half from the facility. I just wanted to come tonight because during the final review is often too late for Jax to take into account some of the concerns that might be expressed by local folks. And I think I wanted to come tonight because I've reviewed the revised site plans, and I want to express that it strikes me that there have been substantive changes to sort of the character from the exterior of this site plan, just from sort of what a neighbor might see. And I just wanted to express, and maybe you can convey this, I think when Fitz came and spoke in the summer about this, I was struck by what seemed like a change in the general overall feel and the look of the facility, from a sort of open, well-landscaped research facility to something that feels much more like a biosafety protocol is being. The fences have been pushed out, landscaping has been, seems to have been changed, although the landscaping is not finalized. So I just want to express my concern about the sort of visual impact of the project now with the large fence pushed out to the perimeter. I don't know why the fence, such a large fence, has been pushed all the way to the perimeter and basically created a very closed sort of campus that is very, very much unlike what you all have in Bar Harbor. From an outsider's perspective, it seems like maybe security has overruled what might be community concerns that were strongly expressed about the overall aesthetics of the project in the last set of hearings, or last when you had your community meetings in the summer. And I'm particularly concerned about the sort of what seems to be a downgrading of the overall landscaping, the quality and density of landscaping to buffer the project from the public. From what I see, and again, your final plans for the landscape are not on here, but is certainly not the sort of character of a very softened edges, sort of visually natural type of landscape that Fitz was talking about when he came in the summer. And I know you all have to balance security with aesthetics, but it seems to me that perhaps your team has overreacted and created the design team has created what feels much more like a very unwelcoming sort of front face for Jax. Again, I would encourage you all to think about how Jax looks in Bar Harbor to the Bar Harbor community, and I think it's striking to me that this facility looks substantially different from the outset. And I don't know how you can adjust your plans. Perhaps moving the original plan was to have the fence closer to the perimeter of the building. Now you've pushed it all the way out to the edge of the parking lot, basically to the very edge of the lot. And so I would really encourage you to think about that. Ways that you could make the landscaping plan reflect maybe a more natural looking landscape. With the fence in place, you have very, very little space to work with to accomplish that. So I would encourage you to think about how you might soften this so that it looks less foreboding. The other concern I have, I can't really tell from the proposed site plan about the lighting. I looked at the lighting displays. My only concern is, I think this summer, again, when Fitz was here talking about the facility, there was assurances given that this would be dark sky compliant. And I'm just concerned that the light towers are still way too high. The largest light impact, actually, of that facility is on overcast nights with glare. When there's low overcast, it really lights up the entire area. And again, I live about 2 miles away, and I can. It actually projects light through the sky along the bottom of low overcast. So I don't know if you can lower. I know you're using the maximum allowed height for lighting, but I would encourage you to consider something that lowers the lighting in general to avoid that kind of, because probably the greatest light impact beyond direct impact on the immediate surrounding houses is actually that glare on overcast nights. So this is something that Lowe's, I know, was asked to dim their lights at night, and I think that would be something that you could consider as well. So I don't know if there are, if I looked at the lighting plans, I'm not sure how you all have reviewed it Michelle and others on this, but I would say that from my perspective, I think we've been given assurances that the odor will not be a concern, that noise will not be a concern. I think a 35-foot tall light tower on a facility like this that I don't understand is going to be used widely at night should be an easy thing to accommodate for community concerns.
If I could just step in a moment.
Sure.
What the applicant is going to be looking at are the requirements of the Ellsworth ordinance
Right.
regarding lighting.
Sure.
So they may be in a difficult situation.
Absolutely.
So
And I
that's-
understand, right.
Yeah.
And I think there, obviously, as you lower the towers, you have to
Because
change.
the ordinance doesn't address time of day in that sense.
I realize
So whether it would be allowable to dim, I have no idea. We would have to look at the plans.
Right. And I understand that the ordinance has been going through some growing pains, and they've been trying to figure out how to make it
But
work
at the
appropriately.
moment, the board is constrained
Right.
in what it can do by the
Well,
ordinance.
actually, I think my suggestion is, and again, I'm not a lighting expert, is to lower the lights and maybe have more posts rather than having fewer higher posts of higher lumen that will tend to deflect. Because again, the greatest concern in our area, in the area directly associated with this, is actually the diffused light on low overcast nights. It is dramatic. It's like having that light turned on in the whole area. And I don't know about Steve Beetham and the folks who live right down the hill, but it's got to be significant. So the environmental impact, the light pollution from that site and from Darlings is, I mean, again, they could probably be lit at the right level by Darlings alone. So I understand that there is a balance to be struck. So I don't know if, I was wondering when the complete landscape plan might be available, because it said in the addenda that there was not a complete landscape plan yet, and that they were going to preserve 23 trees.
Well,
But
that-
particularly, I think the area over by the utilities on the right-hand side of the building, to sort of soften that industrial look, and then right along the road are probably the two primary concerns that I would have. So,
Okay. Anything else, or? Oh, thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak? Hearing none, I shall close the public hearing. How would the board like to proceed? Don't leave these nice folks hanging.
I guess my question about the traffic study and the water and sewer letters, are those required for completeness? Or do we just have to say that they've been requested? Is that sufficient?
In the case of the water and sewer, I think they've submitted letters. I think that's fine. There's definitely some movement forward. The traffic study, there was movement forward. There was definitely a half a page, I would say, that was presented to staff, and we kind of said that was insufficient. So there was definitely something that could have remained here. I think it would have been more confusing potentially to you guys, so we asked that they removed it. So I think you're gonna have to make a decision on that.
May I just comment that perhaps it'd be a good idea in the future not to withhold something, but to put it in so that we can say, yes, it's in the package, and therefore it becomes part of completeness. Because at this stage, we're not worried about whether the report is any good or not, just that there's something there.
What was the substance of the report? Was it a page of analysis or some numbers?
It was a simple explanation that I'm gonna let the applicant answer
Let's ask
to what it was. I think that would be better in this case.
So, we looked at the Lowe's traffic study and drew some conclusions from that based on the number of employees and the distribution that Jack's, because they have a flex time work schedule, as people come in the morning, there's kind of a smear of people, they don't all show up at 7, they start at 4:30, And so, and they have a pretty good sense of that distribution, so I essentially applied those numbers to the number of employees and did a comparison to the peak traffic numbers from Lowe's. And I don't feel that the staff was at all out of line in wanting more definitive numbers, especially now, I guess, with the addition of Dunkin' Donuts there, and also when the Lowe's study was done was right when that whole traffic reconfiguration was happening. So, and Michelle's also correct that the people shopping, the diverted trips question, people who are already on the road, oh yeah, that's right, I need to get some electrical tape, I'm going to pop into Lowe's, versus people coming to work. So there are the character of the traffic is different. It just made sense to move forward and get an expert
I'm
to
not-
do the work. So, but my point is that, so what I had provided was a page of that kind of simple analysis, and so that's what was in there.
Could we make
It's,
that a condition?
I apologize
Yeah.
by John from
But
the,
it was ready to be put in.
it was in there, but as staff, as, my role is to make sure that you use your time efficiently and that things are provided so you can make decision. In this
Well,
case, it was,
okay,
I made a
but-
decision
Yeah.
and
But we don't have to make a decision
Correct.
tonight. We
I
have
just
to
made a
find it
decision. I
complete.
apologize for it.
So, but can you just have it be a condition that it be
Well,
submitted in
why
time
don't
for the
we-
final
If the
submission?
If the board agrees, we've heard that the material was available, it just missed the packet, and therefore we can consider it as part of, that is available, would be complete with that. If there were no other, I mean,
Yeah,
because
I
we're not
just,
rendering judgment on,
I
the
feel
traffic
like I
report.
don't think I could say complete without something that addresses traffic in it. If I say complete tonight, then, oh, well, we don't need traffic. I
no,
mean,
no.
So that's why I
It has
don't
to
want,
be,
A condition.
or you could do it that way.
so maybe the condition that be appended to the record for,
Yeah.
as part of this submission.
I'm going to take a harder stance. I think it's something that's very important, and it's, what was provided was not even close to being a traffic study, and you don't really have a traffic study, and it's probably from that point of view, traffic is a significant part of the application, and it's not there.
Do you feel strongly that the board should find the applicant not complete tonight?
I feel I cannot make the decision, but I feel it's a significant part of this application tonight is traffic.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Well, no, so what's the consequence of that? That's what I want to know.
Potentially one more meeting, 2 more meetings instead of 1.
That's what we have to decide as a board.
Further questions?
I would like to comment on lighting.
Please do.
I just want to say I don't disagree with the comments that was made tonight by Mr. Siebold. I do want to say that one of the greatest night sky offender in that area is not the existing Lowe's, but is the actual neighbor in the dealership. That came into a different ordinance where you have literally very large, powerful lighting aiming straight without being shielded. I'm not saying that there's no glare coming from the Lowe's, but that was a very different ordinance that they were under, where we asked for them to be, I believe, full cutoff. Just want to add that.
Can I ask some questions about the nature of the workforce and their schedule? Is it like a 3-shift operation? People are there 24 hours a day? Is it, what kind of profile are we looking at?
No, we will have a round-the-clock boiler operator and security guard, simply for the building. But we have flexible shifts, basically starting as early as 4:30 a.m. Everyone works an 8-hour shift. So from 4:30 to 7:30 a.m., those shifts are staggered. And then from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m., people depart the building. So it is an 8-hour shift operation, just with flex time. So some people start earlier, some people start a little later, some people leave earlier, some people depart later.
Okay, so to draw on that, then, it would seem reasonable that, say, 9 or 10 o'clock at night, there's not a lot of people coming and going from the facility.
None whatsoever, correct.
And is there some sort of a security personnel stationed that roams the premises during
Yes.
those hours?
Yeah,
to some
we do it
degree?
with cameras, but there's also an on-staff security guard who would be there all the time as well.
And can you discuss the fencing around the perimeter of the property, what the purpose is? Is that purely for security?
It's purely for security. It's an ornamental iron fence. It's not anything cold or prison-looking. I guess it's not chain link with barbed wire on the top.
How high is it?
Sarah's got a cut. I believe it's 6 feet.
Yeah, I'm not sure it shows on these plans, so we'll need to confirm it.
And there's enough space, clearly, between the building and the fence all around to drive all the way around?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We're actually leaving the existing chain link Lowe's fence around the back and the left and north and south sides of the building.
That fence isn't being replaced?
No.
It's gonna stay there, and it's
Stays.
a chain link 6 foot high,
Yes,
galvanized apparently,
that's right.
something.
Yes.
What is
Okay.
being put in the front, or being proposed in the very front, which is, there's some discussion in the application about,
Sarah, that fence was 8 feet.
right, but that's only the fence, that's the shielding fence,
That's right.
In front of the pump house.
in front of the pump house. So there is a higher fence, that's really intended as it's a landscaped fence.
It's a
called
screen.
the green wall, so the idea is that it's, built so that, and it will be planted such that it will end up growing, with vines on it. And that will be, in front, of the area where the pump station is. But it's not along the entire frontage. Most of the frontage will be planted. There's an existing berm there that already is somewhat planted, and that will be supplemented with plantings, as well as a new fence along there that replaces the chain link fence.
The fence will be on the outside of the plantings or on the inside?
So,
It's actually, there are tall trees on the low side of the fence, and there are smaller shrubs and other on the front side of the fence, the road side.
Okay.
if you look at, in your packet, I believe it's in section 9, right before the lighting section, there are 2 landscaping plans. And one of them, which looks like this, has a detail for the green fence. And at the top, there's a plan view that's just a very small portion of the frontage of where the pump house is. That's the part that's gonna have this 8-foot tall fence, which is called the green wall, the green screen.
Vines grow up, it completely covers in vines and kind of masks the pump house.
So, and that section is maybe 50 feet to the left of the main gate as you come in. And that's really just there's already a chain link fence there that the city pump house is within, and this is to disguise that because it's right as you drive into the property. The rest of it, the rest of that frontage will be, there's an existing planted berm, and that berm will be supplemented with additional plantings, and the chain link fence that's there will be replaced with a different fence, the one that Norm described. So except for that small section that will have a taller fence and be a little more, you won't be able to see through it, but you won't be able to see through it because it's gonna be planted. The rest of it will be shrubs and trees along that planted ground. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
I'm back on traffic when you're ready for that.
Anything further from the planning board at the moment? I see we have a new arrival, so I just want to reopen the public hearing Do you wish to speak?
No, good, thank you.
Okay, I will close the public hearing. Any further questions from the board at the moment, or shall I recognize Michelle? Are you any warmer, by the way?
Actually, yeah,
Okay.
I'm all there now.
So, talk to us.
So I just wanna, I feel guilty and I don't want the applicant to have, spend time to attend any additional meetings that's not gonna generate any more information or anything substantial that is needed for the meeting. I think that's really important to me. But I also wanna say that under the Article 9, that's where, it's clearly stated that a traffic impact analysis is needed. It's on page 9 of the Article 9, it's 907.1F. And the elements that need to be there were clearly not there.
May
I
I
have-
make a suggestion?
What?
Okay.
I
see
have
this-
full faith in trust that the information is going to be provided to us in time and is going to be complete, and I'm hopeful it's not going to.
May I make a suggestion?
Sure. Well, let me stop
We-
talking.
We could table this till the next meeting and have two,
Actually, you could.
and then at the next meeting, the first thing we do is, with that traffic, we find it complete. And then we immediately go on to the next part where we decide if it's adequate.
You're
The
getting quite
final
creative,
hearing.
Mr. Fink.
Could we do that? Would that, you think, work?
Yes, I
Why
think
don't
that
we-
would be.
Why don't we do that then, and we don't have
And
to
I think
have-
then, if that's too much information to digest, if there's an issue, you can always make a different choice then, but I think that would be a great alternative to
Yeah,
the.
well, we could have that in time to read before the meeting, so.
Yep.
Absolutely.
We make a determination of completeness on everything but
Why not?
that, so that those items will be closed and they won't be part of our review.
Yes, that'll make it even faster.
Okay.
Works for me.
I think the importance is stipulated in the ordinance is they're coming to planning board, there should be decent public comment, and that's why we asked for 2 meetings. I think if that is
Yes.
met truly, I think you're in high grounds. On high grounds, not in high grounds, but
We don't care. At this moment, we can be in or on it.
that's good.
So, does Mr. Motion Maker have a motion?
So,
You're so moved.
yeah,
He's moved by this.
so moved. Very descriptive. So the question about completeness,
Yes.
do we also need to approve the change of use as well? That's also part of this tonight, isn't it?
It's actually the driver for us being.
Okay.
And that would be with approval.
Excuse me, may I can I say something? Mr. Wilson, you'll notice that in the agenda item as listed, I had Jana take that off because it was confusing. I think it's more important to recognize that it's an allowed use, than it's a change. It's not a change, it's an allowed use.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I did see that.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion with regard to agenda item number 3, the major use development plan, that we find is an allowed use in this zone, and that the application is complete in terms of submission materials per Article 6, Articles 8, Article 9, Article 10, and Article 11, with the exception of the traffic study and that we table a completeness determination on that particular item until our next meeting, when more information, more detailed analysis to meet the standards that the city wants is provided at that time. And that other than that, the other items are considered complete for the purposes of this meeting. To be continued to the next meeting to find determination of completeness only for the traffic portion of the application.
Is there a second?
Over here.
Any discussion? All in favor of tabling this motion, please? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your flexibility.
It's part of the city's fitness program.
Are you adjourning and we'll sign the
Are
Mylars?
the Mylars to sign?
Yes,
Yeah.
there's four.
Okay. Then, let me make a motion that we stand adjourned as soon as those Mylars are signed.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor, please? Thank you.